All right, so you're going to be accessing today the Unit 1, Lesson 3, Circle Square activity. And you should have been underneath Canvas and clicked on the slide link. And when you do that, you should see this presentation here. For you to be able to access it, though, you probably are going to have to do make a copy. So if you're not familiar with that, you're just going to do File, and then you go underneath here to make a copy. You'll do the entire presentation, and then you go ahead and just name it to whatever makes sense for you. And then you'll save it to your drive, okay? And then once you have that, it's editable and you should be able to edit it. So you'll be updating as we go along. So as I go along here, the one thing we're going to start with is just asking the question. And the question is, how many ways can you represent 7? So what I'd like you to do is when you're, just pause this presentation, go to your slide, and then answer that question as much as you can. Now, some things might be where you draw it out. So if you want to draw it or just, describe it, that's fine. But give yourselves, 2 or 3 minutes to actually find ways that you can represent 7. And when you are done with that, then you can go ahead and continue on with the presentation. Okay, so we'll find that there are definitely a variety of ways that we can represent the number 7, and unfortunately we're not in class to kind of see everyone else's ideas, but we might use like the numeral 7, or we might use the word 7. There might be different ways in other countries in which they could represent 7. You might do some math, like 3 plus 2 plus 2, or you might do 49 divided by 7, or what have you. A lot of different ways in which you could represent that actual number. So today we're going to see how we might represent the number 7 using only 2 different shapes. So in the previous class, we ended up by deciding that one of the best ways to use our devices was to limit them to 2 options. Let's say option 1 is circles and option 2 is squares. And then we're going to use circles and squares today for our 2 options. And now let's figure out how we could use those shapes to communicate lots of different pieces of information. All right, so what you're going to do today is you're going to work out many different pieces of information, and we're going to use circles and squares that you can represent with a 3-place value. For example, we could do circle, 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 square, circle, can represent 2 different pieces of information. So here's an example. If you notice up here on the upper right-hand corner, we can give taking squares and circles, use them, and each line is going to be something different. So what we want to do is record all the possible 3-place value patterns that use only the circle and square shapes. And a few are listed in the diagram over here, so we see, but you want to try to make as many patterns as you can. And then the goal is to kind of think about some sort of order to avoid putting them down randomly. Okay, so that's our challenge number 1. Okay, so I'm going to give you some time. If you hit enter, go to the next slide. Here you can actually move your items over. And so what you're going to be doing is you're just going to be moving, whoops. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in presentation mode, so I can't actually physically show you. So you should be able to drag the square and put it here, drag the square, put it there, and then drag a circle, let's say, and then that would be pattern number 1. Then you go to the next line and you do the next pattern. You go to the next line, do the next pattern, okay? And so again, the goal is to try to make as many patterns as you possibly can using circle and square and only 3 placeholders, okay? So take a minute to pause this video, go to your slide, and then go ahead and try as best you can to do that, and then come back to this slide here. Okay? So once you've done all that, you probably have realized that there are a total of 8 possible patterns. And what you'd like to do then is, hopefully you didn't do it randomly, but you probably did just kind of drag and drop, which is one I don't have there, et cetera, et cetera. So we do agree there's 8 possible patterns that we can make with 3 place values. However, now, if you were sitting next to somebody, or even if you gave this assignment, let's say you give this slide to your parents or your brother, sister, what have you, they would probably not put them in the exact same order as you. So not everyone would have created the patterns in the same order, which means that we don't always have the same seventh pattern. So let's say I come down here, I go to my seventh line, it would not be the same as maybe someone else's seventh line. And even maybe your first line's different. So what we want to do is our goal is to create a clear set of rules where if anyone would to take these circles and squares, if you cut them out and made a pattern, or cut them out and put them in front of them, that they would be able to generate the same list of patterns in the same order. Okay, so maybe my first line is always circle, circle, square. My second line is always square, circle, square, whatever. So what you'd like to do now is you're going to pause this video and you're going to think about what rules you would create so that if someone was given these circles and squares, they would create the exact same pattern every single time. So I'd like you guys to do is go ahead and pause this video and to work out what you believe would be the rules that then would get that in the correct order. And then when you're done, you can go ahead and hit play and continue on. Okay, so now that you have pretty much come up with a set of rules that you believe would actually create the correct order, and that your directions are very clear, definitely try and share it with someone and see if they can't do it. But we're going to move on now to challenge number 3. And challenge number 3 is where we're going to extend the rules to generate all possible 4-place value patterns. And so this challenge has 2 parts. You pretty much want to first discover all possible 4-place value combinations. Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. There's 16 of them. And now you need to extend your rules from the previous challenge so that they work in this challenge as well. So you may realize that you may need to change or add to your rules to accomplish challenge number 3. Okay, so what I'd like you to do then is go ahead and pause this video and work on your slides to create the patterns, the 4 patterns, as best you can, and then figure out what rules you would need to actually have someone be able to create the same pattern. So you want to have some sort of, rules that would then apply to that. Then when you're done, you can go ahead and come back to the slideshow. Okay, so congratulations, you just invented your own system for counting, and now we have new ways to represent the number 7. And you may find that your rules, once we come back to school, we'll actually look at your rules compared to someone else's rules. We'll actually see that they are probably different, but somewhat similar at the same regard, but they all still represent the number 7. This happens a lot as new technology is invented and fine-tuned. We have different technologies may count in different ways. And so what we're going to start looking at next is we're going to look at, going to learn about the counting system computers use to represent numbers. And so we're going to kind of move into that element there. So I guess the question that we want to then ask you is, how is counting in this circle square system similar to how we count in our regular lives? And how is it different? And on the, it's actually, I'll put that prompt on the slide so you'll have it. Go ahead and answer that question there, and then go ahead and proceed to the wrap up, which is going to be Unit 1, Lesson 7, number 2, check your understanding. And then once you are done, go ahead and save your presentation, and then you want to upload it to this assignment.